Hey guys, welcome back to my devlog series. This week I got a lot of game dev done, due to me attempting my 24-hour live stream. I'm just going to talk about the days that I did actually get game development done, not the entire week. Wednesday! Today I started working on my combo system that I mentioned in my last video. The first thing I made in this stream was a scriptable object called skill. If you don't know what scriptable objects are, they are like scripts that could be used as objects. The next thing I made was a script called skill manager, which just sets up how the skills would actually work. I then made a few test skills. The first one was called starter, the second one was called combo, and the third one was called finisher. Next I began working on a skill tree script, which would just hold all of the skills. I then realized I couldn't really continue my skill system without having a stat system set up first, as skills normally require stats, like you use a fireball skill, it's going to do fire damage, which is a stat. So I started working on my stat script. Working on my stat system, sorry. The first script for the stat system was called character stats, which just sets up the stats so they show me, or the character, or the player I guess, where the stat is coming from. Like if you had say a hat or something that increased your strength, it will say this hat increased your strength by this much. Usually like when you're using like a tooltip or something, you'll hover over it and it will show you that's why you set this up. And this script also makes it so that it's harder for people to cheat by like editing the values of stats using like an outside plugin or something, I don't know, like cheat engine I guess, because they're not actually changing the stat number itself. They'll be changing like a word that says the number, not the actual number itself. I then began working on a stat modifier script, which just allows like armor and weapons to change stats. Like I was saying with the hat example, you might have a hat that increases your strength, but this is a script that makes your hat increases strength. I then stopped the video because I had been recording for like 2 hours and I had to go to work, so I didn't want to, or I couldn't go any longer. And then, yeah, next day. Friday! So on Friday I began working on my character stat system again, and stat modifier script again, and this time I actually managed to finish it. I was then about to work on my inventory and skill tree systems, but I realized I probably need to set up some UI for these, because usually when you're dealing with inventory and stuff, you'd like to see where the icons are. But I didn't have any UI set up yet, so I stopped the stream and then went and made some crappy ones. Saturday! So Saturday was the day of my 24-hour stream, and I got a lot of stuff done this day. So starting from the beginning, I imported my crappy UI that I made the day before and started setting up the scaling and sizes for this UI. I then downloaded some temporary icons from the asset store just for testing. I'm not going to use them in the actual game. Same with the UI, it's also just for testing. I'm not going to use it in the actual game. First thing I scripted on this day was a scriptable object called item, which is pretty much the same as my other scriptable object called skill. It was almost identical. I then made a few test items just to see how they would look. They didn't do anything because they weren't scripted to do anything. They could like see like inputs and things. I then made 2 more scripts after that. The first one was called the inventory manager, which just controls my inventory. And the other one was called item slot, which is just when you look at your inventory, you've got little squares all over it. Those are called the item slots. So the inventory manager script went on the actual inventory itself, and then the item slot script went on the little item slots, which just allows items to go into them. At the same time as making these inventory scripts, I was also working on my skill tree scripts, because the skill tree is pretty similar to the inventory system. Like, skill system is pretty similar to the inventory system. As like, when I made the inventory script, I also made the skill tree script, because they're kind of the same. You both take stuff out of them. I then also made my item. I made my skill, because items and skills are kind of the same. I then made my item slot, and I made my skill slot, which will go in the skill tree, because they're kind of the same. The way they work is all pretty similar. Then once all that was set up, my inventory was able to put items in it, and you can actually see the icon in the inventory, but I couldn't pick up items and put it in. You can only put it in through the editor, not through the actual gameplay. But yeah, you can get items in the inventory. So then I started working on my equipment system, starting with a scriptable object called equipable item, which was derived from item, as it is an item, but equipable. The way this was set up was pretty much the same as item itself, because most scriptable objects are kind of the same. They don't really have much to them. And whilst making this, I was also working on my active combo system. The active combo system was kind of the same as the equipable equipment panel system. So when I made my equipable item, I also made a combo skill. The equipable item and combo skill were kind of the same thing. The way that they're written out, like they're not really the same thing, but just the way they're written. Next I made my equipment manager script, which is the actual script. Similar to my inventory manager script that goes on the actual inventory, this one goes on the actual equipment panel. And the other skill script that was similar to this was called the active combo skill, which will go on my active combo skill bar at the bottom of my skill tree. I then made 2 more slot scripts. The first one was called the equipment slot script, and the second one was called the active combo slot script, something similar to that. Active combo move, I think it was called. Which these are like my inventory panel. You got your helmet, chest, legs, boots, belt, gloves, all those little squares, they're called the equipment slots. You take something out of the inventory slot, put into equipment slot. Take something out of the equipment slot, put into the inventory slot. Same with the skill tree and the active combo bar. So you take stuff out of your skill tree and you put it into the active combo bar. You take stuff out of the combo bar and you don't put it back in there, it just disappears. Magic. But kind of the same thing. That's why they're set up like this. Once I got all the scripts done for my inventory and all the scripts done for my equipment panel, and I guess also my skill stuff. I hadn't set up the UI for the skill stuff yet, so just ignore that. But for these 2, I decided to start working on the click and drag system, because right now it was just like you click on it and it'll show up there magically. But I wanted like you click and drag it over if you're on a computer. If you're on a PlayStation, obviously you just click it and then it will just show up magically. But computer, I want click and drag. So I started working on that. And I also started working on a tooltip system. Like if you hover over it, it will show like a little square down here that will say like the name of the item, where the item come from, and the effects that the item does. I also set up my stat panel, which will show off the side of your inventory how much strength you have, how much intelligence you have, all those things, your current level. And you can hover over those too, and you also get a little tooltip thing that will tell you why that stat is that much, like where it came from. Like you might say like if you had a helmet that was increasing your strength, if you hovered over strength, or like a boots that were increasing your strength, and that would add it all up and to give you the total value of how much you got from all those bonuses. This is also the part of the stream where I had the most problems because my click and drag system wasn't working and I couldn't figure out why. And my tooltip system wasn't working and I also couldn't figure out why. But both of these were deriving from, what's it called, an interface called pointer click and pointer drag and handler. Yeah. I hadn't really used these before and I was a bit confused by it, and it was late, and it was like towards the end of my stream, I guess, which is technically halfway through my stream. Get back to that in a second. So I think my brain wasn't really working properly. But anyway, I decided to stop the stream at 12 hours in because I was just really stuck on these and couldn't manage to get them fixed. I was like, I think I spent like 3 hours or something just trying to figure this out. Yeah, my brain was definitely not working by this point. I needed sleep. But anyway, so I stopped the stream, then went to bed. Then the next morning, I decided to try and fix it and managed to fix it in 10 minutes. Yeah, it wasn't really that hard to fix. I just had to change a few words in the code and then done. So that was that entire 24-hour thing. It was really just 12 hours. Yep. I might try it again some other time, but yeah, that's all I got this time. That was all I did this week. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and a share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already.